Hey, gun people. I've been dealing with horsey herd issues and haven't made any videos lately. But Saturday, y'all come around where it should be a lively discussion. I've had a lot of people email me on both sides of this issue, Israel or Palestine, on who's right, who's wrong, who's this. So me and Pat are going to talk about it. We're going to open up the lines and let people call in, and you're going to get to make your point, and we're going to get to cross-examine you or debate you or question you on why you're saying what you're saying. So hopefully it'll be educational, so we'll be able to learn. Because, I mean, to be honest, I don't know where I stand on this because I'm not really up on the issue. My big thing is Israel's a small country in the middle of a lot of Arab countries, and everybody wants to kill them. I mean, they just openly say they want to nuke them and kill them, and they want everybody dead there, especially Iran. And Iran is funding Palestine. So, to me, if I had to choose, I would probably choose Israel without knowing all the things, but I'm not saying Israel is completely right or whatever. So anyway, there's some interesting footage in here on how the cops are working. This guy right here is probably yelling, "I can't breathe, hands up, don't shoot." And I'm not sure what he did. I don't even know whether he's on what side. Again, when I see these are Israeli soldiers, I think, and when I see them attack, and I could be wrong, but that's kind of what I got from this news brief. And when I see them attacking people, they pretty much come with force, but I'm going to break down some of their tactics too. So let's see what's going on here.
West Bank just a short time ago, where there have been confrontations between Israeli security forces and Palestinian protesters. Israeli security forces are using live ammunition there.
Now this is Al Jazeera. Unfortunately, I bet you I would believe what they're saying more than I would our own media here in the U.S. I mean, our media is a complete government left-wing hack, and will say anything and will cover anything and will, totally protect the left. They are not for the people, and they're not for the truth. They're for their own agenda. So Al Jazeera, I never thought I'd say this, is more credible than most of our media here in the U.S. But anyway, that's another issue.
At least 12 Palestinians have been injured. We are also hearing reports of Israeli snipers in the area.
So they're hearing reports of Israelis. I'm not sure which way they're leaning, whether they're leaning toward Israel bad. I mean, in this article, they kind of crack on both sides and they show both sides.
Similar scenes near Ramallah as well, where there have been armed confrontations between some protesters and Israeli security forces.
Well, anytime you get protesters, you're going to have conflict. People are going to be on different sides. So, I mean, you can't really blame the Israeli military because protesters are fighting with each other. I mean, that's kind of like, well, never mind.
Those are still ongoing, though they have calmed down a little bit. There have also been tense scenes in Nablus in the occupied West Bank, where demonstrators have been facing off with Israeli security forces. One Palestinian protester was killed and more than 160 others injured during demonstrations.
I mean, seeing this type of fighting and burning and rioting and screaming in Arab countries is like seeing loot, burn, and murder in a rural city, and Black Lives Matter is not there. So, to me, this is not shocking that this is going on, because this has been going on for as far back as I can remember, and a long time before I was even thought about.
Across the West Bank. 2 Israeli soldiers have also been wounded. And earlier, this was a scene near Damascus.
Okay, so this is a little fight scene that I wanted to cover here. This dude right here is a big dude, and he kind of towers over all these guys, and he kind of gets in their face, and nobody really, takes him down. If a big dude pushed me when I was a cop or tried to intimidate or back me down, I'd latch onto him. He would be my new, project. These guys have PR-24 striking batons, and nobody took out a shin or a knee or anything on this guy. And one guy throws a strike, and he uses a very weak strike, and I'll talk about that.
Gate in the occupied East Jerusalem. Protesters there heeded calls for demonstrations but were met with an Israeli crackdown. A photo.
So I'm thinking these are two women, and they're like all over this woman. I don't know what she said or what's going on, but they go after her.
A journalist was targeted, and many protesters were.
Okay, so this guy right here has a PR-24. I know it's PR-24 because I can see the side handle baton right here. This is commonly called a PR-24. It can be called a side handle baton. Some people call it a, what's that word? Not baton. I don't know what. There's another martial arts term that they'll call it. But traditionally, it's a PR-24 side handle baton.
Were beaten.
So he seems a little intimidated by this big dude. Again, this is this big dude here again.
And many protesters
and he kind of gets in this guy's face, grabs his hand, fronts off on him, and then goes in his face.
Let's go first to Al Jazeera correspondent Nida Ibrahim. She was reporting live to us.
Okay, so this guy's strike right here is extremely weak. I don't know if he doesn't want to hurt him, if he doesn't know how to use a baton or what, but watch this guy strike.
Let's go first to Al Jazeera correspondent Nida Ibrahim. She was reporting.
So right here, he's holding the side handle. This is called a one-handed strike.
Live.
It's not really. It's a downward strike. He comes across this guy's arm. Pretty good strike if he made contact with bone. When you hit somebody with a baton, you want to go where skin is closest to the bone. You don't want to hit in big meaty areas like thighs and here because it doesn't hurt. You want the baton to come in contact with bone where the skin is closest, and that's where you get your biggest impact. That was a pretty weak strike.
Ramallah, when those shots.
He holds it back here like he's going to hit. Here's a big guy again.
Were fired. She was talking to my colleague.
So now they get face to face. He kind of backs him down a little bit.
To talk more,
and then they cut it off. I think they might show it more a little bit here in a second.
About what brings these protesters here. We're joined now by a Palestinian who was at the protest, Layali Hamayel. You have been living here. You were born and raised under occupation. What makes you think that protests...
Okay, so later on they report that this was Palestinian people shooting at the Israeli security forces or the wall or the border or something. So, but everybody starts panicking when there's rounds going off, obviously, because you don't know where they're coming from. You don't know where the rounds are going. Even if they're shooting in the air, which we see a lot in these countries when they celebrate, they fire their guns in the air. You don't want to get hit with a bullet coming down. It may or may not kill you. I mean, the odds of it killing you is probably slim, but if it hits right, it could.
Nida.
So this woman her reaction is pretty, what I would call non-survival instincts. Did you notice the other girl ducked? See? Like, I'm getting down. I don't want to get hit with a bullet. She's lived there her whole life. The press lady is like, wow, what's that gunfire? What's that smell in the air? What the? Lady, somebody's shooting. You might want to get out.
Nida, we're seeing crowds are leaving. We're not sure what's going
on. I know what's going on. What do you mean you're not sure? Somebody's shooting a freaking gun. That's why they're leaving.
On. There are people, Palestinians, who are standing.
Okay, Nida, can you get down and get to a place of safety, please?
Yes, we are ducking now because it seems like there are bullets.
I want you to notice all these peaceful protesters, as we call them here in the U.S., young males. I said if I profiled anything when I was a cop, it was young males. Didn't care what color you were, didn't care what religion you were, didn't care anything. Young males commit most of the crime, they are responsible for most of the crime, and they are more likely to be involved in committing crimes. Sorry, we were all young males. That's just facts.
Okay, Nida, we're gonna let you get to a place of safety because it sounds rather dangerous where you're reporting from.
So this girl's running around with a little backpack. She's probably carrying either rocks or things that her boyfriend wants her to carry because she's a woman. These guys aren't carrying things. She's got a backpack. What's in there? Is there water? Is there medical? I don't know. But if you're going into this area to clean it out, that would be a target that you want to secure.
Nida Ibrahim, we're going to check in with you and come back to you later on.
Let's go to Nida Ibrahim, taking place live, injured.
From a hill overlooking the confrontations here near the illegal Israeli settlement of Bet El, when we heard gunshots and people leaving, we believe that those were Palestinian militants shooting towards the Israeli army.
And when they're calling Palestinian militants, is that like BLM militants? I mean, everybody's good except the militants. I don't get it. So again, this talk on Saturday, hopefully people can answer these questions and put out reasonable information, and everyone watching will come away a little smarter than they are now on this. I don't know how many people keep up with this, but I mean, I've just, far back as I can remember, Palestine and Israel didn't get along. They're always fighting. And normally, you hear about Palestine bombing or killing innocent civilians. I heard in news yesterday, Israel is telling Palestinian people before they hit a building, they're telling the civilians to get out. We're going to blow this building up. They're hitting military targets, and they're giving them warning before they do it. Meanwhile, Palestine is using civilians to give them cover when the bombs are there so they can show the dead bodies. I know it sounds like I'm pro-Israel, but I'm really just looking at right and wrong and evil and kind of fairness. And again, I'm only getting on what we're being reported. Nobody really knows for sure what's being reported. I'm sure I'm going to have some people calling in Saturday that think they know, but we really don't know unless you're there.
Army that is near the illegal settlement of Bet El that has been already firing at the Palestinian protesters at the scene. Now, later on, the confrontations intensified and the Palestinians have been leaving the scene. We're seeing many less numbers than the ones protest that sound able to identify how many Palestinians. They say that 63 of these injuries were here in Rabat.
Nida, do we have a sense of how things are going to develop now? Because the day started off, as you were describing, with many thousands of and the scene turned
well in these checkpoints.
So I'm trying to get to the more of the fighting scenes. It looks like this guy's improving some positions
the
back
protest
here.
started here.
Landed sort of near our feet here. You can see the protesters are really quite a long way pushed back in the distance. But
so occupied West Bank, not real sure. I don't know what Pat said at the last meeting, but evidently a couple people took offense to what Pat said about Israel, and was saying that he shouldn't be allowed to talk about it because he doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, I fully admit I don't know what I'm talking about, but and again, that's why we're going to do this show on it, to hopefully get ourselves educated and maybe give a resource for other people to come and get educated.
the pattern has been that they will gradually approach this Israeli border police or military area. What we also heard just before we came on air was a large volley of tear gas to this side of the camera, which is to the west, where we know that the Aida refugee camp is. So that refugee camp in protesters and the...
Okay, so I don't know what kind of automatic tear gas thing this is, but it's badass. I would love to have one of those. When this dude lets out some fire, he puts down a wall of gas, and these canisters hit, and I mean, it just... Now, this only works when you have a good wind. If they put down this wall and they were facing the wind and they were downwind, they would gas all their own people. So you always want to fire one smoke or gas first, and even in tactics in the military, when we were deploying smoke, if we were going to do maneuvers or move, we would always throw one can first, and that would be our wind check. We'd watch the dissipation pattern, which way it's blowing, and then we would direct our other smoke canisters, because we knew where it was going to blow, and we would, direct those canisters to where they would blow, to where it would give us cover for us to move where we wanted to move. So check this bad boy out.
Israeli military here. What we've seen is them approaching, throwing stones. Initially, when the larger body of the protest headed up this road.
Again, the wind is going toward the protesters, so this works. If it was coming at you, and you get some idiot in there, some quota hire up there that you go, don't shoot the gas, just get in position. And she goes up there and fires the gas and goes, oh, I didn't know, I panicked. And then she gasses everybody. Rick, why are you out? Whatever. I'm just saying shit happens just like that.
there was an immediate dispersal.
Big tires in a road. This is a typical any urban warfare. You want to block roads. Trash cans, old cars, crash cars, anything that slows down vehicles responding. So they've got a lot of stuff on the roads. The only thing they can do better is maybe pour gas in these tires, light them on fire. It would create large black smoke. You see this smoke here moving this way. If this was black smoke, it would be very hard to drive through there because you don't know where you come. So it's easy to set up an ambush. It gives you cover.
Of them by a very large round of tear gas. And since then, it's been these sort of running skirmishes where people will approach, throw stones, and then the Israelis will do one of a number of things. They've been out surprising them from hidden areas in houses nearby, grabbing one of them violently and taking them away. They've been using the tear gas and skunk water.
So skunk water is what they use, and I ended up looking it up. Basically what skunk water is this, it's a dispersed, it's supposed to be a non-toxic blend of baking powder, yeast, and other ingredients. We don't know what those other ingredients are, maybe down to 3 or 4. It shoots out a water cannon. It says, imagine the worst, most foul thing you've ever smelled, an overpowering mixture of rotten meat, old socks that haven't been washed for a week, topped off with a pungent waft. I don't know what waft is. Waft? I don't know what the hell that is. Of open sewer. Imagine being covered in the stuff as it is liberally sprayed from a water cannon. Then imagine not being able to get rid of the stench for at least 3 days, no matter how often you try to scrub yourself clean. That sounds pretty bad. I don't know if it is that bad. So they're using tear gas and skunk water
to drive them away. They usually involving troops coming out and confronting in one way or another. But here behind us, injured by that into the alleyways and further up by weaponry, stun grenades.
I thought there was another conflict here.
What that is. Do you get a sense, at least from what you...
Now, I'm not sure what this dude threw right here. Can y'all tell what he's throwing right here? This guy throws right here. I wonder what he threw. Was that a rock or was that a tear gas? I couldn't see.
Do you get a sense, at least from what you're describing, that quite heavy-handed tactics are being used there?
Quite heavy-handed tactics. Really? You bomb a city, Palestine sent missiles in and killed civilians, and they targeted populated civilian areas in Israel and killed innocent civilians, and now they want to say Israel is being heavy-handed? Damn. You don't want to throw a bomb at me. If you think Israel's being heavy-handed, you don't want to be tossing bombs at me if I got the ability to rain down heat on you, because I think Israel's being pretty fair and pretty mild-mannered personally. Rick, you just love Israel. I'm not loving Israel. I'm not talking about them as a people or what they stand for or anything. I'm just talking about in a combat situation, they're defending their area and their people. And you know what? You know, now somebody's going to say, well, they deserve it. Well, okay, well, that's another thing. You know, do we deserve for all our soldiers to be killed in Afghanistan because we went over there and we had no business there? That's, you know, if and buts coconuts.
By the Israeli military to bring that protest to an end?
Stones and rocks.
So tear gas doesn't seem to be affecting this guy, but you notice he moved in front of the fog line. So this fog and the wind is blowing this way. He's not behind it, so he's in front of it. Now, obviously, if somebody pops him either with a real bullet or a rubber bullet or even a canister of tear gas shot out of something gun, he's obviously going to hit his retreat area is back into the fog of pain.
And children's marbles, just a few centimeters in diameter, being thrown against a wall of...
You know why he's throwing rocks at a vehicle with metal grates? You know why he's throwing a rock? Because he don't have a gun. If he had a gun, probably wouldn't be throwing rocks. But Rick, that's why they shouldn't have guns. Well, no, that isn't why. But anyway, that's another debate.
Concrete and steel behind which the Israeli troops are stationed. And in return, the amount of firepower, particular least...
All right, so
where
I thought there was another thing.
that means he's been killed.
So according to this guy, rocket attacks launched from Gaza have killed 12 people in Israel and injured hundreds more. That's a lot of injuries and a lot of people dead from an enemy, and now they're saying Israel is being heavy-handed. Are you kidding me?
And others drove their trucks early in the morning that crossed then hours as we were
So the death toll from Israel's bombardment there keeps rising, and the humanitarian situation is only getting worse. Israeli airstrikes have killed at least 213 Palestinians so far. That includes 61 children. Thousands of people have been made homeless and are sheltering in schools.
Okay.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
So they're saying that all these people were injured, but their government or somebody from their country shot rockets military rockets into Israel. And now they're saying, gee, who could have predicted that Israel was going to fight back and hurt us? I mean, look, I'm not even over there, and I'm pretty sure that if you start shit and poke your finger in Israel's face, they're going to fight back. And I'm not even there. But they make it sound like they're surprised that Israel is fighting back. I don't get it.
Our enemies see what price we are charging for the aggression against us.
I like that. We're going to charge you a price for your aggression toward us. I like that. I like government to pay a price for their tyranny.
I am sure they will learn the lesson. We will continue the operation in Gaza, no matter how long it takes.
I like that, because Biden and everyone else is saying he needs to stop, ceasefire. And you know what he's saying? No. You started this mess. I'll be done when I'm done. If you don't like my response, here's your choice. Don't throw missiles at me. I got no problem with that. If Israel was throwing missiles indiscriminately and killing civilians in Palestine, and Palestine was doing exactly what Israel's doing, I'd have no problem with what Israel's doing. Now, I'm sure somebody's going to come here and educate me on how suppressed and how the poor victim of Palestine's, but I'm so tired of victim status from our BLM shit here that it just doesn't matter anymore, and I'm tired of hearing people crying about being a victim. So, it may fall on deaf ears, but we'll see. Y'all come by on Saturday.
We took on Hamas years back, and the enemies around us are learning their lessons of what we can do to them if they dare to attack us.
Now, one of our senators did say, and he's Jewish, by the way, we gave over $4 billion, with a B, $4 billion to Israel in military aid. Why are we giving $4 billion to a country when my taxes are going through the freaking roof, and I'm hearing all this crap about how we need to raise taxes, my property tax are raising. We don't have enough money to pay our bills. We're printing freaking money out of, but we're giving other countries money. Man, I'm telling you, man, until our budget was, if it was up to me, if I was president, we don't give anybody any money until our budget is balanced. Period. Done. No ifs, ands, buts, coconuts. That's an easy fix. No aid to anybody. All you Congress people that got buddies and making money, you don't get no aid for nobody till our damn budget is balanced. Period. We are not grudging, and we're decreasing government by 50% everywhere. I don't care where. Every agency, 50% gone. Our government is shrinking in half. But, that's probably why I'll never be president for a day.
Well, we can go live to Gaza and speak to our correspondent, Al Jazeera's Safwat Al-Khalout. Safwat, you are, I believe...
Okay, so if you want to go watch this, it's on military operations against Hamas. It's on Al Jazeera English. So you can go watch the whole video. But Saturday, we'll be talking about it with Chewing the Fat with Brick and Pat. And y'all come by. It's already posted if you want to set a reminder. The link should be in the description if you want to call in over the internet and be a guest to talk and explain your view and who you support and why, or who you don't support or why you don't give a shit. But anyway, all right, we'll end that there.